All right.
Good friend.
All right. This is we're very excited to have this closing plenary session on really sort of trying to drive some of these ideas beyond sort of what we've already heard in the last couple of days with two exceptional speakers. The first is Alessio Signorini. He's an innovative technologist with a passion for artificial intelligence and scientific research. He was the director of technology for One Riot and Ask.com, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and co-founded Immersive Labs, a digital advertising company, which was accepted in Techstars, New York City, 2011. Among his research interests are artificial intelligence, linear and heuristic optimization, computer vision, semantic analysis, and cryptography. So delighted to have Alessio here today.
Hey, that was not me. Okay. So I'm Alessio Signorini, and you guys are stuck with me for the next 25 minutes, so let's try to make it work. First thing I want to say what I'm not. So I'm not a doctor, not fake, not real. I'm not an epidemiologist, not a professor, not even a med student. So I apologize in advance for any stupid thing that I'm going to say in this presentation. And what I usually do is I usually build technology. I built technology for various companies. I was the director of technology for Ask Jeeves, a creepy company where we made people believe that there was a butler answering your questions, which is totally true. Like, we changed Ask Jeeves into Ask.com, and people wrote us letters saying, "Thank you, butler, for all the years in which you helped me." Like, people wrote questions. Like, people like, "Please, Ask Jeeves, could you help me know something?" Like, it was awesome. And the top question asked Jeeves ever, all the years, every month, is how to get pregnant. For some reason, Butler knows. Or people believe so. It's wonderful. The second thing I did, another kind of creepy company was called One Riot. We were spying on what people were sharing on Twitter, and we built a search engine that will rank stuff based on who and when the people were sharing the links. And then lately I founded this super creepy company that's called Immersive Labs, where we put a web camera in digital billboards, and now the digital billboards can see you. Okay, you know the stuff on the subway, the digital billboards on subways? Now the digital billboard can see you, understand your gender, your age, your body type, and all the stuff, and target the advertisements. That's super creepy. It's true. I like it. But like, in my core, I'm actually a PhD student. You know, it's like, I'm a they tell me I have a tenure, because like, it's like 8 years that I'm trying to get my PhD and they cannot get rid of me. And like, it's totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. I do research. I publish stuff. It's just that like, I get distracted a lot. I get distracted by like fun stuff, love, and friends. But more than everything, I get distracted by ideas. I love solving problems. I love these kind of talks because they expose me to problems I will never have thought of. And now I want to find solutions. Like, if you want to drive me nuts, just come to me and say, "Oh, that thing you can't do that. It's impossible. Like, I'm gonna waste 2 years to do that." And that's what I do. And I love specifically stuff like, you know, now there is so much data and so much technology that's like, you know, available. And it's wonderful when you can take all those data and then apply technology, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and see patterns emerge. And then you build something on top of those patterns, and then you do very, very cool stuff. Like, it's great for me. Like, this, I don't know if you guys know what it is. Termite mound, termite nest, okay? So, like, I don't think that there is an engineer in termite that comes up in the morning, "Oh, guys, this is the plan. Today we build this column." You know? I don't think that's the case. But, you know, look at that. It looks like, you know, if every termite takes a grain of something, and then he puts it somewhere, and then you step back and you look, and you find those kind of stuff. They kind of looks like a church, a Gothic church or something like this. And like, you know, that happens like in termites, but it also happens in people. Like, you know, people, cyclists, you know, every cyclist is doing its own thing. It's trying to optimize for its own race. But then you step back, you look, and they make lines. You know, there's not like, "Okay, guys, now we make a line for the next 3 miles. They just do that. And it's, you know, so there are patterns everywhere. You just need to like step back and look to a lot of data that you generally don't do that. Data is everywhere. And like Mark yesterday in one of the panels said, you know, we'll have many, many more data from a lot of sources and we'll not know what to do with them. And he's right. And there is already a lot of data that we don't know what to do with. And like there will be more data because now this year is the year of near-field communication, little devices that you can do stuff with, and people are excited about the wallet, but then there are stuff you can eat. So now we can put near-field communication devices, RFID devices in meat, so when people eat that, we know that they ate them and the meat came from somewhere. That's a lot of stuff. And so like, look at this. This is a hard disk, okay? So this is a hard disk. This is where there's one in every computer, and that's where you store your images and your pictures and whatever. It goes in something like this inside your computer. The disk is made by platters, that are those disks, and a little head that writes magnetically on the disk. So in the last years, computers became much more popular, and people started using laptops more and more, and laptops becoming smaller, and people started bringing laptops everywhere. And with the consequence, people started actually dropping the laptops, and the laptops will break. Okay? And people are not really upset at the laptops, because laptops cost $400. What you are upset about is that you lose all your data. Because when the hard drive hits the floor, the heads touch the platter and destroys them, and you cannot recover the data. So the hard drive people say, well, let's put an accelerometer in those hard drives. So when they feel that they are falling, they move away the heads, and that doesn't happen. So people still have destroyed laptops, but they can recover their data. It's awesome. So and they did that. And now imagine that. So every computer of the world, every server, every laptop, everything has an accelerometer inside. Okay? Something that can detect vibrations. Those are all little, like, how cool will it be if we detect all the vibration of the world and we send them to a computer or some servers, and now we start analyzing them? We perhaps can actually look at earthquakes or early signs of earthquakes. Because if your computer vibrates, okay, see, vibrates. Yeah, that's one computer, but if all the computers of Boston start vibrating, that's a different thing. Okay, so, and people did that. People at Stanford, they connected all the computers. You can install a program in your computer, and they send the vibration captured by your hard drive to a server, and they start analyzing that. And there's the quake catcher networks, and they do that. And so these are some data, because we use devices every day, and you don't know that they produce those data. Did you know you had a seismographer in your computer? You don't, but you do. Okay? And we produce a lot of data every day from stuff that we don't even know. So this is an experiment I like to do every day, like in every conference I go. I can put my laptop in something that's called promiscuous mode. Okay? It's an Italian laptop. So we do that. And then I use a software to analyze every wireless communication that happens in the conference. I don't really see what you see, but I see who originates the request and what they are looking, and the amount of data that you produce, okay? So what I do, I run my laptop in promiscuous mode during conferences. Like yesterday, I do that during Keynote and panels, okay? And I capture the average amount of mega of data that like every single device produce during the talks, okay? Those are like randomized. You will never know who is A, who is B, or who is C. I'm not going to tell you. But what I'm like to speculate is that people produce more data in boring talks, because people start looking at their emails and their blogs and stuff like this. Take away from this. If you're going to look to your Facebook now, I will know it, so please stop. My laptop is there in promiscuous mode. So stop, seriously. Or Twitter, okay? So, but this is something, did you know yesterday you were producing those data? No, everybody of us was actually in boring talks, or perhaps there were no boring talks. Was checking emails or the news, or catching up with Twitter and all the stuff. And you are producing data which some creepy guy can gather and figure out stuff about you. And people can, I do a lot of experiments like this. You produce a lot of data that you don't even know. I'm doing another experiment. I'm going to put a little piece of code on a website that I cannot name yet. And it's not the New York Times. And this piece of code will collect the mouse movements of a lot of people, okay, together with their age, their gender, and their location. Okay? So I'm not a doctor or anything like this, but I thought, cool. If I look at the mouse movements, perhaps I can figure out if those people, there is a pattern. As you age, you move the mouse differently. Or perhaps we can detect Alzheimer or monitor Alzheimer or something like this. I have no idea about all the stuff that I'm saying, but I will try. And I'll collect the data and then see if I can see patterns. And now data are everywhere. Okay? A lot of people publish data on the web, like I show you. You publish data even when you don't know it. And there are more and more data, and data are valuable. And like right now, financial companies are stealing physicists from airplane companies because apparently they figure out that the way the plane moves and the air flows is similar to how the stock market flows and all this stuff. And so now physicists are employed in financial companies. And like what is funny about that, and they use all the sort of data, they use Twitter data and weather data and all the stuff to try to predict the stock market and how things will work. And what I found funny is that 73% of stock trades are now made by algorithms. So before there was greed and fear and people selling because they were fearing to lose money and all stuff. Now are algorithms competing with other algorithms, which I don't know how it's going to work. But like that's what they're going to. So algorithms that pretend to be human and other algorithms say, ha, I'm going to anticipate that. It's not going to work. But data are valuable, and those people, like, they offer me $1 million to work in one of those companies. Okay, I don't know why, but they do. So for some reason. Data are very valuable, and data can be used in a lot of ways. And people are willing to pay for your data and to predict your behavior and all the stuff. Look at Gmail, right? A lot of people here have seen Gmail accounts or educational stuff. So every account costs $50 a year to Google in server space and all this maintenance and all the stuff. But it's giving that away for free. They are super nice. Okay? Yeah. And then during Christmas, they also give away free wireless internet in airports. Still super nice. No, that's not the case. Surprise. It's not the case. What they want you to do, they want you to log into their system so they can put a cookie on your computer and then they can track you around the web, even when you are not on Google, because they have advertisements. So every time you go somewhere on a website and there is one of those things, they know that Alessio has been on this page. Okay? They don't just know somebody has been there. They actually know me. These advertisements are done in such a way that they call back to Google and say, Alessio is on this page. And now they collect data about me everywhere I go on the web, not just on Gmail and stuff. But they are not the only creepy company that do that. Everybody loves Facebook, but that's the same thing. Like 80% of people right now browse the web while still logged on Facebook because they don't realize that if you close the windows, you are still logged in. Okay? And they put this like button everywhere. And they don't care at all if you click on them or not. What they care, the button is designed the same way the advertisement is designed. So every time the button loads, they get a hit that say, Alessio has been on this page. So now this button is everywhere because everybody wants likes. And so now Facebook actually know every place of the web where you have been because of this thing. Okay? So, and like now the smart people here say, I'm going to delete my cookies. Who cares? I delete my cookies. Well, even if you do, right, there are like smart ways to figure out who you are and get a signature out of you even if you don't have cookies. Because there are ways to get information from your browser which are totally legal and cool. It's like the resolution, your browser name, and all like plugins that you have installed and stuff like this. And if you put them all together, okay, you get a signature, unique signature of somebody. Okay? And if you don't trust me, just go to their website at the bottom, and they will show you. There are millions of people that tried, and all the signatures are pretty unique, and there are ways to track how your signature will evolve, and it works. So even if you delete your cookies, you are exposed to this problem. And okay, and like sometimes you're not Google, you're not Facebook, you're not body like this. You want to try to be creepy with the data of your user. You can do it. Okay, so just go to your institution, to your IT department, and ask them for the proxy logs. So the proxy is that computer close to the earth there. Okay? That is the computer that usually stays at the frontier of any network, and is usually used to filter out what is allowed to, so you cannot watch porn when you are at Harvard, for example. And but that computer, so it sees all the traffic that you generate and sees who generates the traffic. Okay? So you get these logs of everybody with the IP of the address of who generated the request and which page they went to. Okay? So I did that experiment, obviously, because I'm super creepy. And so in Iowa, okay, this was a log from a dorm in Iowa, and try to guess what this guy is concerned about. Okay, so he figured, I figured it's a guy because like ESPN football, and then went to Facebook, and then looked, I figured it was a good time to look for genital herpes. And he looked at the facts, and then screening, and then looked at pictures, and then looked at dermatologists in the area. So I believe he saw something he probably think. Imagine how powerful can be this thing, right? You can monitor a dorm. You can monitor a university. If you like pull some strings with AT&T, you can actually monitor a city or even bigger. Like, so you guys, you should do that. Like, So this is something you can do. It's totally legal. Kind of. So Twitter, everybody, we talk about Twitter. People share a lot of stuff about Twitter. People share, I'm glad here everybody this year spoke about Twitter. It's so amazing. And, people share what they are doing. People share how they feel. There is awesome Viagra ads. If you are not satisfied with the one in your email, you can find wonderful discounts on Twitter. And, there are health tweets. And then, like everybody else here in the room, apparently, I try to model these things, and I try to model the ILI, and it kind of fits. So it's very cool. Okay. I'm not spending enough time on Twitter because everybody talked about Twitter here, so you all know what Twitter is. I didn't hear a lot of people talking about Foursquare, so now there are a lot of GPS-enabled phones, and there is this new thing that's Foursquare. You go to places and you check in, okay? And people want to check in because if you check in, you get badges. Like the first one is the mayor, so you become mayor of a place because you've been there more than everybody else. You can get the drunken badge if you went more than 3 bars every night. The gym rat bags more than 3 times, pizza, traveler, and all the stuff. Why do you want badges? One, because they are super cool. And the second, because then you get discounts. If you're the mayor of Starbucks, you get like a 0.5% discount, and people really like to save 2 cents on their coffee. Take a €4 latte, you save like 2 cents, really, $4. Anyway, again, I like to be creepy. So while people are checking in, I was tracking those people. And those are check-ins from one person, from multiple people in New York City. And you can see where they live. The guy obviously lives in the bottom corner, right? Bottom corner. And these are like all the movements because they went there and they checked in, and I'm just tracking them. And those data are available. And those data can be used to see how people now move in cities, okay? And then you can, aggregate them, and you can see how people move in airport, like, between airports and stuff. So if you're not lucky enough, or you don't have enough money to buy the flight data, you can use these kind of models in your epidemiology models, and it's probably going to help. And now a lot of people say, like, Foursquare, not everybody uses Foursquare, only the uncool people do that. It's okay. You can still do something cool. What about directions, maps directions, okay? So you can go on your proxy logs, and you see people going on Google Maps and then looking, I'm going to go from X to Y. Well, when they tell you they want to go from X to Y, those are kind of check-ins. So now if I looked at all the maps, all the requests from everybody in Boston or everybody in the Harvard University, now I have a pretty good model of how people may move in the city, okay? Maybe it's not as accurate as Foursquare, maybe it's like, detailed, but that's another good way to get movements data in a city. And nobody's exploiting that, so that's free. And then, like now there are also stuff that automatically tweets about you, which is awesome. You go on your scale, you measure yourself, and the scale automatically sends the tweets out that says, I'm 228 pounds or something like this. Okay? Seriously, it happens. That was last night. Okay? And then, of course, again, my attitude of being creepy, you can plot it. Sorry for that. There are only a few data points because I did that like last night between midnight and 2 a.m. and apparently people don't like to wake themselves at 2 a.m. But there were some people. So bigger bubbles mean the people were fatter, and smaller bubbles, people less fat. Like, the blue bubbles, the people were average fat. But, like, conceivably, you can go on Twitter and get all the stuff and get data and do studies like this. And then, with Phil Polgren, we are trying to compare that to real surveys and see how good are those things if we can really use them. And can you all understand me? Or you just once in a while you nod because I'm Italian. Sometimes people really don't know what I say, but just check. Okay, so and there are more data. There will be more and more and more and more data. There are a lot of devices that take, you wear, you do something, you take your stuff, and they upload the data somewhere, which is awesome. We just need to go into those places, talk to the Fitbit. Fitbit is like a glorified step counter. And then Nike Fuel, they invented something that apparently looks at your oxygen levels and decide how much movement you're doing. White things, that gray things, that's measure your blood pressures. And after it does, it tweets about that. And no kidding, it costs $129, so $129, people buy it. Body Fit Media, that things you put it on your arm and measure your sweat, and it does something with it, and tweets about it. Think about it. Jawbone app, the first version failed, the second one is going to be much better. Again, wristband, measure your movement, how you sleep, and all the stuff, and all those data are automatically uploaded to servers. So now we just need to convince those people who own the servers to give us those data and then start doing something with it, okay? Besides the one that tweet about it. So that's one way to do it, right? Another way is to use old devices in new ways. So right now, two people invented this instant heart rate application for your iPhone. You put your finger on top of the camera, and it measures your heart rate and some other information about you, which is pretty cool, right? So now, like, people can start doing that, and there are devices you can attach to your iPhone to measure your oxygen levels. And there's something that a company called Tinkle just presented at CES 2012. It's a big conference that measures your glycemic level without picking your fingers. Pretty awesome, right? If you have diabetes. And so just find new ways to use all devices. There is a company that uses your Wi-Fi in the house to detect intrusions as an alarm system. And the way they do that is just because they assume that when there is nobody in the house, the wireless signals should be static everywhere, fixed level. But if somebody comes in, it will interrupt it. So then now there will be a variation of the intensity of your Wi-Fi. And so it detects intrusions. So I was thinking, can we use that in monitoring? Can we use that for old people? Suppose old people have wireless. Can we use that to see how they move from one room to the others? Can we see if they are staying in a room and not moving at the time that they should be moving? Can we detect how much they walk in the house? Stuff like this. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't study those things, but I'm thinking there could be cool ways to use this kind of stuff. And, or for example, this is a university, right? People use the wireless everywhere, okay? And wireless means that you connect to one point around, one router, wireless router somewhere. And now you basically know where I am in the campus. And then I keep moving in the campus, and you get those information for everybody who moves in campus. And now we know how people move in the campuses. Like Iowa City is basically the entire town is a campus, so there is Wi-Fi everywhere. So you basically know wherever I am. And now we can see how people go around the city, right? And those are data that we already have. We just need to use them. And, or maybe like you guys should really use the power of the fact that you are from Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and all that stuff. I'm just Alessio. You guys are actually big names behind. So just go to Facebook and tell Facebook, we want Mark Zuckerberg. We want that thing on top of the page, okay? You have 170 million US people logging in every day. Just go to the 0.1% of them once a week, okay? And then show that something like this. Do you feel sick? Yes or no? I bet a lot of people will answer. And now you have 170,000 people every day telling you around the US if they are sick, which is much more than all the data we can possibly get. And again, I'm Alessio, I cannot do that, but you are Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, you can. Those people will listen to you. When I call, they don't answer. True story. Or we need to find new data in new places. Okay, so like those are two of the creepy digital billboards that I have. And those have web cameras and people don't know them, but we recognize people and we change the advertising based on age, gender, all the stuff. Which it's creepy, but still is. Like if you go into the Gap or in a clothing store and it's gonna show you something, so you may as well show something that you can relate with. So we'll find a model or girl or guy that kind of looks like you, so that you can relate, and the clothes that fits well on them will fit good on you. So that was the idea, not to be creepy, seriously. And anyway, those billboards have microphones inside them. So an idea that I had and I tried out is I can measure how many people cough or sneeze nearby the billboards. Okay? I don't know who they are, but they did cough. Okay? So now 5 people coughed, and 10 people coughed, and 100 people coughed, and then we can relate them with the weather and see if things change. And we have a network of those all around New York City, so now we can see how many people cough in Queens, which can be fun. And then those kind of stuff also have Bluetooth, because you don't know, but like most of people leave their Bluetooth on their phone, because so it's convenient when they pull up their Bluetooth headset. But this means that any Bluetooth devices can kind of detect that you're around often, okay? And that's what I do in those billboards. So if you pass by one of them and you have the Bluetooth on, I record that you passed by. And since we have a network of them, then we can see where people go around. And it's not illegal because you are broadcasting everybody this signal. You're saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Okay? So I'm just listening. It's like when you, like, it's not really creepy that I record that you cough, because you're coughing anyway. You know, so, like, oh my God, somebody can hear. Now you are coughing, and I just recorded it. For what? So the Bluetooth thing, you can do the same, right? You can record where people move in New York. And so now I have yet another super creepy way to know where people move around New York. And not all the cities have digital billboards. And for the sake of my company, I really hope they will. But you know, even if they don't, there are other ways. We can find other ways. I discovered recently that apparently there is this one school of thought that the cavemans will, like, you know, that's how kissing was invented between guys and girls. Kissing was invented because the cavemen would smell the breath of the women to figure out if they were healthy, okay? And then I figured that, you know, there's been an article recently which bees change their buzzing noise if they're exposed to explosives. And then there has been like research in Japan and in Germany that they use dogs to sniff cancer. The dog can sniff you and understand if you're cancer or tumor or not. Okay, so if a caveman can do it, we should probably be able to build some electric nose that smells cancer. So I want to wake up in the morning and blow into something, and you know, the guy analyzes whatever I have. If I start having diabetes, if I start having cancer, tumor, or something, we should be able to do that. Because in New York, in the subway, there is stuff that like looks at the air of New York subway and tells me if it's bad or good. So it's doing some analysis right there. And if cavemen can do it, if dogs can do it, we can probably do that as well. So we can find new data in new places. And then, you know, like, in Oslo, in San Diego, in London, people analyze the sewer, okay, the waste, to understand drug usage, and they figure that people after spring break there is a spike. Yeah, you didn't really need to go in the sewer to figure it out. The people will do drugs over spring break. And so anyway, the technology exists, so you can take bad stuff and analyze them and all the stuff. So I totally want this technology to go into the home. I totally want to poop in a toilet that, you know, then I go to work and it sends me an email and say, oh, dude, what about the salad today? It will be so cool, right? I totally want that. Which, by the way, that's fake, okay? That's not really a toilet, but Microsoft, nobody knows this, Microsoft in 2003 actually invented a wireless-enabled toilet. It was called the iLoo, okay? It exists, seriously, 2003. And then they were going to present it, and then the news caught, the magazines caught the news the day before, and they started ridiculizing Microsoft because it was doing the Wi-Fi-enabled toilet. And so Microsoft scrapped the project and said that it was not true. But then the day after, they say it was true, but they are not going to launch it. But so wireless-enabled toilet exists. Just you know, I really want them to send me an email, and that was why I wanted the stuff. Now, the last thing I want to tell you is, like, you know, I do most of my research, including this presentation and my paper and stuff like this, on this laptop, which is 9-year-old, okay? And this tells me always two things. It reminds me of two things. One, that I really need somebody to buy me a new laptop. And the second, that sometimes, you know, just sometimes, you don't need like $1 million investments or a grant or like super fancy equipment to do research and to be creative and to do innovation. You just need, you know, to try, to be creative, get some data and see what can come out of it. And that's what I do all the time. But a new laptop will help. So start your own revolution, get some data, figure out a way to use it, and let's exchange ideas and stuff, because that's very good about these technologies, these conferences. Okay. That's it.
So if anybody's not too creeped out, at least it would take a question or two. Does anybody have any thoughts they want to share?
I will publish a chart of who looked at Facebook during my talk. I'm not kidding. Like Facebook, you know, if you go on Facebook, it's facebook.com/Alessio Signorini, so I know it was you. So facebook.com/whatever your name, so I will know it was you.
All right.
If you don't have a question, it's fine. I can talk. I can say jokes. We can talk about Italy.
All right.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you anyway.
Thanks, sir.